So Nelson, are you making a pie later for us?
Order the special council meeting for this Tuesday, June the 17th. And I'd like to acknowledge the land on which we gather is the traditional territory of the Ktunaxa, the Syilx and the Snaaxt people, and is home to the Métis and many diverse Aboriginal persons. We honor their connection to the land and rivers and respect the importance of the environment to our strength as a community. There's no late items or urgent items that I've received. And if I could have an adoption of the agenda, just moving 10A and B up to after we approve the minutes. Moved by Councillor Woodward, seconded by Councillor Tate. So that's all good. Anybody opposed? All those in favor? And that carries. Okay, so going on, so that was the adoption of the agenda as. Item number 5, there was minutes circulated from January the 24th, February the 18th, and March the 18th. Can I have a mover for acceptance? Councillor Woodward, seconded by Councillor Page. Councillors, any errors or omissions in the minutes as presented? Seeing none, all those in favor, and that carries. Thank you, everyone. So moving on to 10A, I think we have to ask Amy to come up and join us. Oh, you're 10, oh, 10A is over here.
I can do 10A.
Oh, okay, well, that's the annual report. So pursuant to Part 4, Division 5 of the Community Charter, Council must prepare an annual report before June 30th of each year and make the report available for public inspection and must consider the report at a public meeting. The report provides the public with a clear understanding of the financial position and financial activities of the city over the past year. The 2024 annual report is now presented for Council's consideration. So, we have a recommendation, if we can get that on the floor, and then we can have Mr. Jury address any issues or give a preamble. Moved by Councillor Woodward, seconded by Councillor Tate. Okay, so there we go, we've got that on the table. Did anybody have any quick thoughts? Let you start, Mr. Jury.
Sure, yeah, so this is, you know, we've had a presentation from the auditors and we were able to have an overview of the financial statements at that time, but this is really the public's first opportunity to see the financial component of the annual report. So I'll just talk a little bit about that briefly. But before that, you know, the bulk of this document is really just a reflection of, you know, goals, objectives, accomplishments, those types of things that you know, the city has done throughout the year. I think something that we've gotten better at since I stopped doing it and others have taken it over is really aligning the strategic priorities of council with you know, how this is presented and with, you know, the outline of the different activities that we've accomplished over the year. Great work by Donna, our communications coordinator, in coordinating all of this. She's really done a great job, and it's a difficult thing to kind of get all that information from all the other departments and compile it all in a timely manner. And I see a printed copy of it over there, so if you hopefully have printed copies, we'll make sure that you do have printed copies. And then on the, as far as an overview of the annual report, I was trying to think of, like, you know, what is a good overview, and really, I think it's that page 5, the message from the city manager. I think there's an excellent summary of just sort of the year in a nutshell, and so I encourage everybody to, maybe read that piece as well. Then as far as the financial statements are concerned, a couple of things I just wanted to point out, and I really want to thank Amy Mooney because she takes the bulk of the heavy lifting on this one and coordinating with the auditors and working with them, doing any adjustments that are necessary and getting this into this format that we have here. So she does excellent work, and again, the time is always a pressure right up to the very last minute, but she keeps her cool and gets it done on time every year. Couple things I just wanted to quickly point out. I know the mayor's always interested in this piece, but this one lines up very nicely across the page, so I get that one right. And there's always the focus on that statement of operations, which, folks maybe go to immediately and say like, oh.
Which page is it? Oh, there's no page number.
Yeah,
Which
so
statement is
it's
it?
that statement of operations, and I think it's something that people look at and kind of look at that annual surplus piece. And really the focus when we do our quarterly reporting and everything is on this page, but I wanted to just bring up another page, which is note 14. And I think that's the one that Amy and I and, we look at it the most is where your reserves are at the end of the year. There's some useful information in here that we don't often.
Yep, sorry.
Sorry, I'm a little bit lost as to where are we?
Yes,
Financial
Sorry.
statements.
So if you look at
Yeah,
note
Can you bring
14
Jesse his if he hasn't taken it out of the drawer?
Yeah, mine too, please.
Sorry, what's that?
Okay,
Yeah, let's just.
It's okay.
pause for a
Bring them
second.
all in, Leslie, please, if you don't mind.
No, 14 is on page 57.
Okay,
Oh, there's on the digital one, yes.
In the agenda.
oh, yeah,
I
thank
don't know
you.
where that was. This was in my. Put me in.
Okay, so where is it?
Financial statements at the end.
Yeah, it's at the very back, and if you look, each of the notes is numbered there, and you can see note, 9, 10, 11, go to note 14.
Okay, thank you.
So this shows the balance of all of your surplus and reserves at the end of 2023 and at the end of 2024. So, that takes into account, yes, here's what your operating surplus was, but also what your capital investment was, how much you put into reserves, how much you pulled from reserves, and so what that balance was at the end of the year. So I know those are questions that come up, from time to time. How much do we have in this reserve or that reserve? So this is something that we look at a lot, but just a couple of things I wanted to point out. Second line from the bottom, it says invested in tangible capital assets. So in 2024, we added $17 million in capital assets. Now we depreciated 7 million of it, but there's a net increase of $10 million in capital assets. And how did we fund that? In that statement of operations, there's grant funding that's on there. But we recognized $9 million in conditional grants for capital projects in 2024. So that's pretty significant. Or $9 million in conditional grants, $5 million for capital projects. The rest of that we funded from reserves. Overall, our reserves stayed fairly flat. If you look at that total reserves line, it's 43 million at the end of 2024, pretty close to that at the end of 2023. So we added to some reserves, we pulled from other reserves, we brought in some grant funding, and that funded that capital asset addition that we did in the year. So, I think as far as what sort of amount of surplus we have, we do generate a surplus, but we're investing that in capital. Some reserves are gonna go up, some reserves are gonna go down, but I think that just shows a good management of, the people's money here, that we're not hoarding money and we're not drawing down significantly in our reserves. We're trying to create that balance. Some reserves, like our sewer utility capital, we added 2.2 million to that, but we know that there's a large capital investment that's required coming up in, shortly. And then on the flip side, hydro capital reserves, we drew down about $2.5 million because we just finished the Mill Street substation. So there's that kind of. So anyway, I thought that was kind of an interesting schedule to look at as opposed to always focusing on that statement of operations.
Counselor Tate?
Can you repeat the thing 2024 added 17 million in assets, but it depreciated by 7 million, so 10 million was what now?
The net increase, if you look at that,
Asset,
Yeah.
capital asset, so that includes like sewer pipe and the Mill Street substation, like those are capital assets.
yes.
Gotcha, yeah.
Cause that number went from 187 to 197, so it went up by 10 million.
Yeah.
But we added 17, but you're depreciating them each year, a certain percentage of that, so the net increase was that 10 million.
Chris, there's a capital asset schedule there, isn't it?
Yes, that's right, just the left side over, there's one. You can look at, that's kind of a summary, and I believe at the very back, Schedule A, if you go a few pages further on, there's a more detailed schedule. Kind of the very, there you go, that's one. Kind of, you have to
Oh,
flip it
these are the
sideways.
tangible capital assets, gotcha, cool, thanks.
And I would just add, this is, I think anyone that's thinking of running for council or wanting to know what the city's doing, the annual report is a really good overview of our departments, of, the strategic goals of council, how we're progressing against them, and I think everyone around this table recognizes, we're just doing a bit of the higher profile or priority ones are we're reporting on here, we do, can't put everything in here, and in fact, I, just for my own purposes, to try to keep track of everything we're doing, I've been working on this sort of project initiative tracking sheet, and I can tell you it's extensive for 2025, so it does give you a good overview of what those priorities, what progress we're making, what kind of initiatives we're taking to advance those things. So I think it's a really good document for that. The stats that we put in here now for 2 or 3 years running now, I think give a good indication where we're going. If I look at that first one, we have 13.2 million in property taxes, but our other fees and revenues are 36 million. So our business is more fee generated than property tax. And obviously Nelson Hydro is 22 million of that. Grant revenue was 10 million. So again, taxation is obviously very important and something that people are getting tax bills right now and are paying those taxes. However, we're a much larger organization than just that general taxation, things like, and there's just really some really good information, how many calls that fire has, how many calls police have, all the information is in these stats, so really good information there, and hopefully it's quite readable for people, and we're trying to make it understandable for the public, and providing that information.
Councillor Tate.
Thanks, through the chair, where did you get the population number for us from? Cause we haven't had a more recent census.
Yeah, BC Stats, basically they take the census and based on growth, and I'm not sure how they calculate growth, they project what your population is.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not a census, but it's BC Stats.
BC stats.
Councillor Woodward.
I just on a note of like the design of it, I thought it was the best I've ever seen in the years I've been here. I thought it was really well laid out. I like the inclusion of city staff. That's a really great inclusion because so much of what happens is this group of people. And I like how you made it's digestible, and which is I think so important when everyone is just constantly, there's so much information coming in for all of us out in the world, so I thought the whole design of it was really well done.
Yeah, I think Donna.
Yeah, Donna, yeah.
Did an excellent job, like she really worked hard on it, she was like pushing, I want your remarks, and I want them yesterday.
Right.
Okay.
Notice
just-
the swoosh.
Yeah, the swooshes, I was just gonna say that, just how it holds together. It's a really great document, so. Thank
Any
you.
other questions, Councillor Page? No.
No.
Come, Councillor Lockenberg.
Hello,
Just to
everybody.
get into the,
Yay.
so people know you're here. Okay, so seeing no questions, we had that motion in front of us that the 2024 annual report be accepted as presented to council at the June 17th, today's 2025 special meeting. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? And that carries. Okay, moving on to 10B. Sorry, we moved the agenda around a little bit, Councilor Lockenberg. 10B, and annually, all governments must prepare a statement of financial information in accordance with the Financial Information Act legislation. SOFI report is to be presented to council for acceptance and approval before the report is submitted to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. So, can I have a mover and a seconder, and then we'll let Amy give us a lowdown? Councillor Woodward, seconded by Councillor Tate. Amy?
So yeah, the SOFI report is another annual one that includes the audited financial statements that Chris talked about. It also includes a few schedules that are required for us to report on. Most of those just refer back to the notes in the financial statements. And as well, it lists all of the vendors that the city's paid more than 25,000, employees that made over 75,000, and all elected officials' wages. So some fun facts.
Fun fact.
Comparing to
Open the fun facts.
2019, the city of Nelson had 123 vendors on that list and 54 employees. And in 2024, we had 173 vendors and 112 employees. So that's partly because, slight part of that is inflation, just things cost more. We know that the city is doing some really big projects, and also that those thresholds haven't changed in decades. That's probably the biggest part of it. So yeah, this is the last report that Finance Canada presents to you on 2024. And so you won't see me for a while, sadly.
Oh, no, we'll find a reason. Don't think that you're not coming back. We'll find a
In a
reason.
few months for 2026 budget planning, I'm sure, so.
So, and it's not lost on me that we again will try at the UBCM to talk to the powers that be that this $75,000 threshold for salary needs a significant revision. And I did read, I think in a recent municipal news, that another council was trying to put forward a change to the SOFI limits because they were commenting pretty soon that every staff person that they have in the organization will be on the list. So we will once again try, because I don't know when it was last. That 75 has been there.
Since the start of the Sunshine List, I think, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was the original number.
yeah. So that's a long time. The world has moved on. It's left the SOFI far behind. So we will continue to do that work. Were there any questions for Amy?
I just wanna make one comment. Sometimes we have anomalies on these, just in terms of what's happening in the city. And in 2024, council will recall that we finally settled a collective agreement with fire, and the collective agreement had expired in 2019, so there's 4 years of retro payments in their salaries there, so it all shows up in this 1 year. So that's not the typical salary of our firefighters. It's the retro impact of almost 5 years of not having a collective agreement. So I just wanted to point that out.
I was wondering if it was like that much overtime.
No,
Smokes.
there's definitely some overtime in there, but I think it's mostly the retro for those.
Any other questions? Okay, so we have a recommendation in front of us that the 2024 SOFI report be accepted and approved as presented to council at the June 17th, 2025 special meeting. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? And that carries. So thank you to the financial team. And that probably means, Amy, you get to go home now. You see, you didn't have to wait for that.
Take care, thanks.
Thanks, Amy.
I forgot to have moved that. I wanted to move that up earlier anyways, so, and it was my error in the agenda setting not to get that to the top of the page. Okay, so now we are back and everybody's here to council appointments, the commissions and community boards and et cetera. So at the beginning of the term of council, council appointed council members to various committees, commissions and boards. Appointments were made by council and can be changed during the term of council. Council's discussions changes to the committee and commission's appointment. So we discussed this on May the 2nd at another workshop that we were hosting. And so as a result of the conversations there, we realized that because of changes needed to have resolutions, we needed to bring this to a formal council meeting. So now you have a backgrounder there, and you also have available the committee current committee appointments. And so because it was raised at that meeting that there'd be more than one person, that there were 2 people at least are interested in becoming the regional director for Central Kootenay, and any other people that want to come forward. So I did send out, for just simplicity's sake, just a little thing to say that everybody that was interested in this role could have 5 minutes to speak to it, and then we would have a vote. And just the simplest way, instead of getting into drawing things out of hats or whatever, is just to do it alphabetically. And so because how the rest of the changes or committee appointments might go, we need to look at that, the person who gets named elected to that position first. Just makes it flow down then through going through the spreadsheet of who we have on these committees. So does anybody have any questions about just the process?
Alphabetical first name or last name?
Last name, sorry if I wasn't specific in terms of first name, last name, Keith.
You were close in
J.K.
being
Oh my
J.
God, then we would have been splitting the proverbial hairs there, I guess, on that, yeah, okay. I see how that works, and so I'm gonna just ask Mr. Johnson to do the timing. And so that I'm not staring at a timer and that we can all listen to what's going on. So I know that Councillor Page, you're interested, Councillor Woodward, you're interested. Are there any other councillors that are interested? And I realized when I was doing this, we're all basically in the bottom of the alphabet except for Councillor Hockenberg. Kind of like there's nobody in the beginning of the alphabet. So.
Which is unusual in European names, C's and L's, and this tends to be top heavy,
Yeah.
just from my experience.
Okay,
I'll just say for the timing, I'll wave my arm like this when you have 10 seconds left.
Like how?
10 seconds?
Can
I
we
wanna do like
You
30
start waving
seconds.
and we'll wave down.
Yeah, you might,
Okay.
yeah,
Seconds.
30 seconds.
Okay.
Okay, so P comes before W, so Councillor Page, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Feels like I've been steeped in RD stuff all day because I just left the building. I've got some prepared remarks, so that should get me to the 5 minutes because that's not usually how I work, but this is important to me. So I wanted to just make clear, no matter what the outcome today of today's discussion is, I want to reaffirm my ongoing commitment to supporting clear understanding and alignment among us all. That commitment is evident in both my consistently high attendance at the RDSK meetings and the associated commitments that go with that, and in the comprehensive issues document I prepared and shared with council in advance of these discussions. These efforts ensure everyone at this table has access to the same information and context And that stands in contrast to approaches where we might not have the prior engagement, preparation, or investment in understanding the work at the RDCK table and what has come before. Showing up matters and how we direct change matters. Over the past few years, we've made significant strides together at the RDCK. We brought transparency and accessibility to our proceedings by getting our meetings finally recorded. We transformed the IT department, moving from a reactive service model to a proactive strategic partner within the organization. In both HR and finance, we've helped bring stability and leadership that's improved our fiscal clarity, internal capability, and support for recruitment and retention across the RDCK workforce. And we've transformed community services staffing across the recreational services, garnering efficiencies and sharing the workload in a manner that helps deliver better service. At a governance level, we've carved out space in the strategic plan to support a more regional approach to growth, one that allows local needs to be addressed while improving coordination across communities and consolidating staff work from defragmented silo conversations to shared conversations. We're co-developing a vision for the Nelson Recreation Campus that not only begins to tackle the understanding of the liabilities at the site, but also sets forward a path with strong planning and community engagement so that we can realize that vision over the long term. This work ties into a broader focus at the board level to bring all of our asset management practices up to modern standards, and we've taken steps in the environmental stewardship with the acquisition and expansion of conservation lands at Rosebud Lake. And where we have seen some real progress is closing down unnecessary and costly satellite recycling depots, a sticking point of the last council. I personally, over the last number of years, have built strong, trusting relationships with our municipal and area directors. Their ongoing confidence in me is reflected in their decision to appoint me as chair of the Nelson Salmo Areas E, F, and G Parks and Regional Parks Commission, Recreation Commissions, year after year. This trust matters. At its core, our work across local government is about co-developing mutual organizational competencies that lead to effective, high-quality service delivery and sharing of best practices. And that's always been my approach when we're doing this work. But no one does this work alone. Where there are gaps we want to close or opportunities for others to engage more deeply for their own professional development, we should move forward with a thoughtful change management framework that strengthens, not fragments, our governance. So with that in mind, I'm proposing that I remain as RD director in the short term to complete a number of key priorities. I'd like to finish establishing a local community services committee to consolidate Greater Nelson services under one umbrella, making it simpler for the public and easier for staff to coordinate on decisions that are associated with that. I'd like to finalize the policy work at parks contributions, linking funding models to principles and processes rather than absolute numbers frozen in time. I'd like to keep resolving ongoing recycling cost allocation inequities that continue to frustrate fair regional service delivery. And I'd like to keep advancing the organizational efficiency reporting and supporting the resulting actions that will come of that. At the same time, I recognize the importance of succession and capacity building. I welcome the nomination of a new alternate, if that's what we want to do, and I'm committed to getting them up to speed. I also recommend that we designate a new representative for the Joint Resource Recovery Committee, and at the completion of 2025, that we appoint a new representative for the Nelson Salmo E, F, and G regional parks. Being the chair, just for continuity, made sense to run out the year. Alongside these adjustments, I'd like to propose a broader shift in how we govern regionally. Right now, our approach is ad hoc and informal. To strengthen our alignment, I propose we commit this council to a formal RDCK check-in process, meeting twice a year. Once in October to prepare our annual budget asks, and again in April to reflect on what's working and reposition our service priorities going forward. This would give us a consistent, transparent process to ensure our direction as council is clearly reflected in the work of our RDCK director, and staff are advancing on our behalf. And I will leave the rest of it.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Councillor, are you ready?
I am.
Okay, Councillor Woodward.
Thank you. So of course, I just want to say, as Councillor Page said, how this works out, it's all good. So hello, Mayor and fellow councilors. I have now been a Nelson City Councilor for 6.5 years and have always been fascinated by the complicated, vital, and sometimes challenging relationship between the RDCK and the City of Nelson. As the years have passed, I have become ever more convinced that the path to regional success and prosperity is to deepen our collaboration and understanding between the RDCK and the City of Nelson. The healthier and more vibrant this evolving relationship is, the healthier and more vibrant our local region will become. The complex issues that the City of Nelson and the RDCK are now dealing with, such as housing, affordability, regional service equity, and the accelerating effects of the climate crisis, just to name a few, needs a holistic and coordinated regional response rather than an individual area response. I intend to follow this collaborative ethos if I am chosen to fill this role. A recent example of my governance approach is the work that I've been doing as a city rep on the Chamber of Commerce Board. Though not the obvious choice for this role, as I do not have a lot of business background experience, but what I do bring to the table is a drive to connect, inform, include, share, and bring people together through facilitating clear understandings of the city issues at hand and drawing people in to help in tackling the issues in an open manner so they feel included and part of the decision-making process. Many Chamber board members have told me how they feel more than ever informed, up to date, and involved due to my style of leadership and sharing. And I have noticed over the last few years, this table has become ever more organized, inclusive, methodical, and effective, which is wonderful to witness firsthand. I would like to bring this style and approach to the RDCK table as well. As most of you know, I am deeply connected to this region as a whole, as I spent 30+ years of my life in this part of the world, which gives me a deep-seated understanding to what makes the City of Nelson and the RDCK region tick, and what are the emerging characteristics and challenges faced by our amazing and beautiful part of the world. Finally, I'd like to talk about my leadership skills and style. I have been in leadership positions for almost 15 years in this area, and I also have a Master's of Sustainable Environmental Management. This master's program used a collaborative, driven approach which brought together scientists, artists, and social sector professionals to learn how to become collaborative managers and leaders in a world of multifold issues that need multifold approaches. In my opinion, this is exactly the kind of approach that is needed to foster a healthy collaborative relationship between the RDCK and the City of Nelson. I describe myself as a kind, curious, and firm in how I approach leadership and decision-making situations. Others have often characterized me as dependable, consistent, methodical, inquisitive, and always asking probing questions to get the most equitable solution to challenging situations. I currently have no other work requirements at this point other than my City Council position, so this is an excellent time for me to take on another leadership role as I can fully embrace and immerse myself in this new endeavor. For me, this is a very exciting opportunity, and I commit, if chosen, dive into this new role with focus and drive to find the best outcomes for both the City of Nelson and the RDCK. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you. Okay, so you've got sticky notes in front of you, and it is a secret ballot, so the Deputy Corporate Officer will collect the names that you write, and will then come back in and tell us who the appointment will be, and then we will work through the rest of the committee and commission appoints. And you've got 2 tags on there, and if we need more things, if we have votes for more things, you'll get more sticky notes.
This is just for the RD position, not for the alternate.
No, this is just for the RD position, so this is the recommendation number 1 of the resolutions.
Do we need a secret pen as well?
No. Everybody have one.
This is a blank pen.
disappearing ink
Has to be in black ink, Kurt.
Oh, the wrong pen.
Full names
Now you
only.
know who it is.
Couldn't count your vote, actually, didn't have a full name on there.
No. X doesn't work, there's no names on the yellow sheet.
I'm writing Bernie Sanders.
Bernie
I'll just vote for Bernie.
I'd vote for Bernie.
So remember that mayor at the FCM who won there's a, what's it called, a write-in vote, where he won the mayoral position as a write-in candidate. So enough people just wrote his name in that he won. Yeah, I know, it was so interesting. I didn't realize that it ever actually works.
With the mayor's caucus?
Yeah, he was one of the, was he from Columbus? He was one of the ones that was on the stage with Winnipeg.
One of the
and-
US ones.
Okay, that's right, he was a write-in
He was a write-in mayoral winner.
winner, yeah.
Yeah, so there was mayor of Ohio,
Yeah, from Columbus.
and then, yeah, Columbus,
Or-
Ohio.
I'm not sure if he was the one from
No, he
Columbus,
wasn't the one from Columbus, he
but it
was
was
the
just really interesting. And he introduced himself as a Republican and a MAGA guy, and he was quite an interesting guy.
Was he MAGA?
I thought he said that, yeah.
And he was from
And the woman from
That's how I remember it.
New Orleans.
Shoot.
I tried to, I left a note for her at the, cause I knew that she was staying in my hotel.
Uh-huh.
And I think they might have checked out, but I had tried to leave a note to see if we could get that.
I've seen it, I recognize her from TV, like I'd seen her before, like on the.
First woman mayor in 300 years.
Yeah.
New
Really?
Orleans,
Columbus.
first one.
That's a history, 300 years.
Like there was a woman mayor 300 years ago?
No, like, the city of New Orleans is not a mayor for 300, sorry,
Just the first.
for 300
Sorry.
years. Okay. So I'm pleased to announce that Councillor Page will be continuing on as the Regional District Director. So there we go, Page there. So now we have the opportunity to look at now, Councillor, this is gonna be more discussion, but we're gonna get this all finalized as we go. Councillor Lockenberger, you've been the RDCK alternate. Are you looking to stay in that position, or would you like to,
I think it's time for somebody else to
okay?
get that experience, and I'm counting on Councillor Page to support his alternate, yeah.
We did so good at the housing committee years ago.
So, I'm interested to hear who is interested in the alternate position. I mean, I will, cause we had that discussion, and so I know that there had been some previous discussion about whether or not I would put my name forward to be the regional district board chair, like to be in the first round. I am fine if nobody's gonna put their name forward, but can I hear some names of people? Councillor Woodward, do you have any interest in being the alternate?
But you were saying you'd like to be the alternate.
No, that's, if there, nobody else is putting their name forward, then I will,
Yes, I would be interested in that
okay.
position.
Anybody else?
Can I make a, just as a point of reference here, and it has to do with employment. So one of the reasons that I went for this position, because I don't have employment currently, and so I could pour my time into the new position. But now that that is not the case, I will have to go and pursue other employment, which could chew up a lot of time. But I'm not sure exactly the time amount for the alternate.
Councillor Lockenberg, could you give us a rundown on how often that you had to replace Councillor Page? I think,
I think I probably did
Okay.
4
Yeah.
meetings. You do get paid for the meetings. So
Okay, it's just scheduling, right?
it's a scheduling thing for sure.
So,
But what I think you guys would do differently is pre-plan that as much as you can. I would think, because the short turnaround is difficult,
yeah, especially if you have other commitments, so.
Yeah. especially like a job. But
and,
my guess is that you would work that out.
and just because you brought up the dollars, I just looked at this again, and so, and I think sometimes there's some confusion about how all of this works, because when you're a city councillor, you don't get paid anything extra for anything extra that you do.
Yeah.
But just so people are aware, the municipal director's allowance, monthly allowance is $1,554, so that's almost $19,000 a year additional pay for that job. And just in terms of doing, if you are the alternate at a board meeting, it's $490 for the board meeting for that day, because can be a day.
It's, yeah, full time.
So there is a stipend there for, and there's a stipend for many of them, but those are the two that,
Is there a stipend for central resource?
there is a stipend for central resource, and that's let me just look at committee stipends per approved meeting. I think it's resource recovery, $308. It's quite substantive for resource recovery.
So as it stands now, I don't have another job at this point, so I could try that. I'd like to be the alternate because I wanna learn, but if all of a sudden I have
We might be back at this discussion.
And what happens, we have to come back, because this has to be by resolution, so these two appointments are by resolution. So it would have to come back to the table for us to add another name. It just can't be a swap out. It can be a swap out in everything else we do, but not on these two positions.
So I
And
definitely
and on top of that, I should just say that you do have to go through a bit of administrative
sure.
as well, so
Yeah.
just keep that in mind.
Yeah, if I would like to do this, this is what I wanted to do, but it didn't work out that way, so I would like to try to figure out how I could do this partially, to make it all work.
Well, and I did mean what I said about deepening the bench strength. So I think I was still getting up to speed and doing stuff, so taking a lot of the lead on those, and aside from when I had other commitments and needed Rick to help me out. But I would imagine we would sit down and structure this a little bit more so that you're getting ample opportunity to actually practice yourself in the role, in the discussions, as opposed to just covering for my things. And that's also why I mentioned things like joint resource recovery. We had originally had the representation, you were in that role until you got into the other role that you had, and it was no longer compatible, but that's another one you connect with that, I would say, because then you're at the waste conversations. They're very self-contained in a way, and they actually have quite a lot of lift in terms of what you need to come up to speed on them anyway, with some significant cost drivers. So in my mind, and this is just me sharing my subjective opinion, I was like, Jesse is alternate, more structured planning in terms of what meetings you're going to, so there's a good amount of them. And then also bringing you in under joint resource recovery, and then that's not the same as the director's pay, but it's not nothing either.
Okay.
But again, being flexible with where we're at in another year. And I didn't really get into the preamble, but I really would like us to do a biannual check-in, both at the post part of the budget and the pre-part of the budget. So we're talking about what our asks are, and then we come in, we're reflecting and seeing what our service changes requests are, and like cycling and reaffirming what
Okay,
we're doing. So we're on the same.
is anybody else interested in being the alternate? Okay, Councilor Woodward.
Okay, thank you.
So then as we go through, if you guys, I mean, you all know I'm a paper person as we go through this. So we now have the RDCK Board Director and alternate. And then Recreation Commission. There's Councillor Tate, Councillor Page, and myself. And if there's anybody that's interested in joining the Recreation Commission, I'm also fine with dropping my name from there, if anybody would. Councillor Payne?
I just have a question.
Mm.
Why do we need 3 people on that?
That's the real bylaw.
Thank you. That's why I asked. I thought it was something like
We
that,
pay a
but
significant portion of Nelson residents is the big
Yeah, we
tax
pay
rate.
like 70% of the cost of the facility. Councillor Page.
I'm reflecting back on the conversation when this was first happening, from Nero on wanting to don't necessarily take this on, just wondering about conflicts, but even in discussions today, the perspective of someone working within a third-party private sports organization, I think is part of how this recreation service needs to grow and how it contemplates and works with and fits in part of a larger dynamic. And I'm sorry I didn't talk to Pinero before this, but I wonder if Pinero's voice isn't of some value at that table. I'm just floating it out there.
Could you say the beginning of your sentence again?
Well, there's so many pieces of like policy work and how our decisions impact the private market and how we like work through partnerships that I wonder if having someone with the experience in the private market in this sector actually has some value to add to those discussions as we try to navigate our way forward after the public engagement. And so I know there was concern about it being a conflict of interest, but I think now that there's a few years under Pinero's belt, maybe would reconsider that choice, or maybe he'd say,
Allow me to
Yeah, sure.
So,
pitch.
yeah, situation, whether I was, first doing this council thing for not very long or for forever or anything in between, it's a clear conflict of interest. I mean, my livelihood depends on at least somebody choosing to not go to the NDCC. So like, I think the conflict of interest exists, and I think that me being on that board is just opening up a huge opportunity for people to stomp all over us in that respect. If anything were to go wrong from their perspective, then that would be it would be my fault. However, if you're interested in the opinion of independent fitness facility providers or small business in that respect, I'm free with my opinions, and anybody on the rec commission that wants to talk to me about how those decisions impact private business or other sports organizations that fall outside of that umbrella, I'm completely happy to collaborate. I just think that actually being on the board is a little bit of a problem.
I think that you could easily be a delegation.
He has been
He has
before.
been.
And you have been
Actually
before,
have.
yeah, you have been,
Yeah.
but I mean, there's no reason not to come back, cause I mean, it did come up today, just to put the nail, the hammer on the nail, was the fact that it was brought up that you had made the comment that there's lots of fitness space within the city of Nelson, and so that was discussed at our table this morning. That was, because you had said that previously, so that
Not by
wasn't.
any of us. It's other people brought you up.
So, and I have no problem with being on this, it's one of those things that I know that Councillor Tate particularly likes being on this, and it works for her, and Councillor Page has been on it for a number of years, as have I, so I mean, I have no problem with staying there. I just wanted people to know that I can move, it's not an issue, so that looks like it's staying about pat then, so we'll just put a little tick mark there. Central Resource Recovery, then am I hearing that Councillor Woodward, you'd like to go back to the alternate? This was changed, that you were the alternate, and this was the only change that we made in the first 2.5 years, was putting me, because I have the experience of being on the regional district.
Again, like, I would like, if I could, to somehow figure out how to do this without having to go get another job, because I wanna do this work. So I would love to be on the alternate, I would love to learn, but there is this like financial component, so if Councillor Page and I could like figure out how to do this with a little more of a kind of a share situation, and I can learn and I can focus on this, that would be really excellent. Otherwise, I do have to, that's the problem.
That's pretty.
So we'll have to, you and I will have to talk about it, but
We're talking about resource recovery though.
yes, I know, it's just, I wanna sign up, like, if I had gotten the director vote, I would just dive right in, right, and that would be what I would be doing. So I would love to do this, and I hope we can work it out.
Well, maybe the two of you could have some kind of little chit chat, cause that's not a requirement by RD. It's not an RD requirement that the RD director is the Central Resource Recovery appointee. I mean, we can get into the finer granulars of this. I mean, like, so you potentially could be there, but I think that maybe there needs to be some discussion between the two of you, or if any other counselor wants to chime in on this, is that this is, so the ones that, the RD director has to be the person that's on them are, he has to be the West Kootenai boundary, there's no swapping out on that, and regional parks.
Okay.
It's funny, but Central Waste is one of the ones that doesn't necessarily have to be the RD director. So it could be, the appointee could be you, and the alternate could be Councillor Page, right? Like, so,
So my preference, and I stated it, would be Woodward takes the lead on resource. And I would be the alternate, and so if there was, things changed with him, I'd be.
yeah, and then we just flip it back the way we did it the last time.
We have to do it for me to step back in. And I think, again, it pays for your time once a month when you're there, and it is a hefty amount of work in and of itself.
Like, I'm not trying to paint this like it's for the money. It's just, I have to figure out.
yeah, well,
my way.
you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. So we don't need to get into how we figure it out. What we're trying to do here is get the people assigned to the committees. So I'm hearing then Woodward as the appointee for Central Resource, and Page will be the alternate.
Okay.
And if need be, we swapped that before,
Okay,
so
okay.
we can swap it again. So then West Kootenai Boundary Regional Hospital Board would be Page as appointee, Woodward as alternate.
I was hoping to keep you on as hospital for alternate, like it's not.
And that's fine, I mean, they only meet like 3 times a year and there's no stipend for that. So it's not like anybody's getting rich going to that thing.
Yeah,
That's fine.
but you've got history there.
Yeah, I've got the
and I
history,
think that-
sure.
that
I
has more
can, if
value.
you're okay with that, Counselor,
It's not a hate thing.
anybody-
Makes sense.
You have the background.
Regional parks. And I'm just gonna say, it might go back to him, cause there is something really funny about the legislation and how that's written about the hospital board. I'm not too sure I can even be the alternate, but we'll find that out. We know who is gonna be the alternate, well, we know who the alternate will be if it turns out that it can't be me. I think it has to be the elected. I think
It
it,
was our alternate before and you were
yeah,
the hospital. You think we got it wrong?
I think we got it wrong. I think I
Okay.
just need to get somebody to
Interesting.
check that, but anyways, so right now it's you and me. Regional parks, we have Counselor Page, and then,
And you said that one has a bylaw that says it has to be me? Earlier? Regional parks has to be me?
yes,
Thanks for.
Yep.
Well, just because I was chair, I was like, it's like,
Has to be.
you don't have to be the chair, but requires the RDCK director as a representative. It's in the, yeah.
change that.
Well,
Now
change
you-
it while
now
you're there,
you-
that's enough.
now you
While you're
want-
still the chair, change it and then things can change some more.
Yeah.
And then we had
So-
Counselor Panero there as the alternate. Counselor Panero, are you still interested or,
Never been to one meeting,
okay?
so somebody else could.
Counselor Woodward then, just to continue following through because that would be a
Yeah,
required,
if that's okay with council.
Yep, no, makes sense.
okay? Transit, still your baby?
Yep. Unless somebody else.
No, you're doing
You're
great.
doing a good job.
You're doing a really good job. Never quit.
And then,
But
You're a
having
lifer.
said that, with success, when we're talking about succession, is there, like with all the things that you're doing, Counselor Page, is that something that we do need someone else to get a handle on, or are you good with that, or?
Transit is interesting because there's not only transit, West Kootenai Transit's conglomeration partnership that Rick is leading up, but there's also the Transit Services Committee at the RD level, which I'm at, so there's an element of this conversation where we're both working transit files, but in different capacities. Like from a succession management, it's interesting to think about who the alternate is. I think you guys got a lot of great work. I won't change it now, but I don't know, is there someone else interested?
I'm just trying to think of a scenario where, you know, neither one of you was there, who else has some depth of experience to move it forward, so that's all I'm. I don't know what's involved in these, cause I don't explore outside of the city. Okay, just bringing it up.
Yeah, I mean, but you're also welcome, I don't know about Councillor Page, if you wanna be the alternate or not, like that's one question. The second question is if we wanna keep things status quo, you're definitely welcome
Just
to
come
the
to the meetings.
meeting, and we
Okay.
can even give you the privilege of the floor to
Okay.
participate in the discussion.
Nope, that sounds like the perfect solution from my perspective, to just have a more rounded,
Okay, so we're maintaining the West Kootenai Transit with Lautenberg and alternate Page. Everybody good with that? Okay, Library Board, Councillor Pinero, appointee, alternate Payne. Councillor Pinero, are you okay with the Library Board?
Till they kick me off, I'm happy.
Well, they seem to like you, I get
They
I
like
get
you.
the I always get the good, yeah, Tracy always has something good to say about you, so I
It's
guess.
amazing, great.
I think it works really well from my perspective, I mean, I go every.
No, I'm gone a fair bit, but Leslie's great at filling in for me,
Right.
and I feel like we got coverage between
Yeah.
the two of us, so.
And then I do a lot of the social stuff when Jesse's not available, so the library's happy with that as well, so for me, it's a really great partnership. And I agree, I hear lots of great things about what the Councillor Pinero's doing there and the support they receive from him and the follow-up, so.
So then we have Police Board. I'm happy to stay there. I think that there's gonna be a few changes on the Police Board, and I think that this wouldn't exactly be the right time, but anybody that wants to ever bring this back to the table that thinks I need to be vetoed is fine to bring it back. I don't have a problem with that amongst you as our council, but we are potentially, I think there could be 3 or 4 brand new board members coming on board in September.
Is the board's growing
Um,
and retiring?
two have done their time, so 2 have to be replaced, and I think that they've always wanted to have the maximum number of seats, which I think is 7, 8, and so they've gone, so 3 for sure will be new,
Okay.
and maybe a 4th. So, yeah, so there'll be some changes there, and then the board members that are on are all, except for Devin Cron, are also all like brand spanking new. So it's not a good change time for,
2 terms, 2-year terms? Or two-
it's a funny thing, it's like 1 year and then it can be 3 and then it's 2, like you get 6 maximum.
Okay,
So 2 excellent board members, which I can mention in public because they're public appointees, is that Jane Byers has retired as of her last meeting was this last week, as was Lena Horswell. So they've both spent 6 years and they were very positive and they were very influential in making some significant changes on the police board in terms of the relationship with the community. So yeah, we will be the police board will be having a little dinner for them. We'll do a mixed one. We'll have the new board members and we'll recognize them retiring, and we are trying this mentorship program where hopefully the old ones will give a little bit of insight within the public realm of their jobs, of course, confidential things that you get to take to your grave from the police board. So anyways, so I'm fine with staying there if nobody else is sticking up their
so
hand.
we can change it now.
Okay, I've never seen so many people sit on their hands, okay. And AEDP, Ganed, the GNU.
Gina.
Just Ned, the G is silent.
Let's go with that, I like that.
When I see GNet, I always think of like
Sweet, we make a
G-Men, like the
mascot.
old shows.
Yeah, it's got going with them.
So we have on the advisory quarterly board there, we have Councillor Tate. And on the coordinating monthly meeting, we have Councillor Page. Is there anybody interested in either of these positions besides the names that are already there? Okay, don't everybody talk at once. So we're gonna leave that status quo. Moving down, then we have the Cultural Development Committee. We have Councillor Payne, alternate Councillor Page. Any interest in change? Anybody interested in those committees? Okay, seeing none, we're gonna keep moving on. Emergency Management Planning Commission, we have Councillor Woodward and Councillor Panero.
I would like to stay if there's no one else that wants to do that. The only thing is, there hasn't been a meeting in quite some time.
And I think that they only meet
Quarterly,
quarterly, twice a year, the Emergency Management Planning
Yeah,
Committee.
part of it was, we had Stefan seconded to help out with the civic projects. So I know there was some meetings that got pushed off, so I think he's back into getting those on regularly.
okay, so if anyone else wants, I would like to stay on that.
You okay as alternate? Okay, perfect. So Nelson Housing Committee, we have Councillor Payne and Councillor Page. Are we status quo here? Anybody looking for a change? Okay, and Nelson Farmers Market Advisory Committee, we currently have Councillor Woodward, alternate Councillor Page. I did get a note from Councillor Payne that she would like to be considered for the advisory committee. So Councillor Payne, like, do you wanna be the appointee or do you wanna be the alternate, or you just wanna attend the meeting? Like,
I would like to attend the meetings. It doesn't matter to me as alternate or appointee, because I know at the housing committee, often Councillor Page is invited in there, and that's great to have those additional voices, so one or the other I'm fine with.
Councillor Page, considering you've got quite a heavy workload, do you wanna give up being the alternate to the
100%. Yeah, that's fine.
and Councillor Woodward?
Can I ask you a question about that, just so I
Yeah.
Is the advisory committee, is there any difference between the appointee and the alternate? Like, do you
No,
have-
because they shouldn't be chairing, like, they're there to liaison, to listen to what the concerns are.
Right, so there's no,
But it's just
there's
like-
no effective difference between those two roles.
Who's the chair
Not-
now?
Not,
Usually Terry.
not really, usually staff chairs that, I believe. Yeah, so I would see maybe Ally might be chairing it, or, yeah.
I don't remember an elected chair. I think she just, as the manager, she was the chair.
It's like ad hoc, it's not,
And we kind of ran into some issues because the ad hocness of it is where my
Yeah,
thinking is.
and I think that-
A little bit more structure.
Yeah,
is
and I think that
actually-
they're gonna have more structure in this next iteration, so.
It started out really strong and then it just kind of dissipated and then people weren't showing up.
Yeah.
And that's why I think it just kind of stopped.
Yeah,
Why
and I
electing
think-
the chair might support
Well,
not
you
happening,
can, you can formalize a meeting, I think that they need to have a next meeting, cause there hasn't been a meeting for some
So
time for them to figure out how it is that they want to
organize.
look at going forward. Because just because you had a meeting and it was strong and then it started to dissipate, that's not because that it's a bad committee, it could be that what you're meeting about, like, we always have this thing about not being able to let go sometimes of committees and committee work, and sometimes we're meeting because, well, that's what they did for the last 50 years, and maybe we either need to have a new committee or a new way of looking at life. And so I think there was a part in there where with the transition, it needed to be more, and then it worked well, and so
people kind of.
harder to get the people to to come to the meetings. Now, there's been change and now all of a sudden there's quite a bit of interest in having a meeting, so.
Thursday is our first meeting again, and it's open-ended, so that Terry's saying like, let's talk about the structure, let's talk about what we wanna do. So that's on Thursday.
I feel okay about it.
Okay, so
Still wanna breeze past.
I'm putting a cross through your name, Councillor Page, and I'm putting Councillor, okay,
You just have to take out a couple of letters.
yeah. Or add a few more in or whatever, however that works. There's the G into a Y. Okay. APC, now I know that we'd had some discussion and I'd also had some discussion with Councillor Pinero in terms of, because of the fact that, you know, it's like I try to look at this and make sure everybody's doing something and because it doesn't meet all the time, that there's some flexibility within the APC, but
Yeah, I'm definitely
you're,
happy
you're,
to
yeah.
step away.
Yeah.
I.
Councillor Pinero, are you still okay with contemplating that?
Look at this way he's selling it.
Who wants that one?
Yeah, that's who wants that one?
Sorry, I didn't think about
Why he's so eager to step away.
Well, and I would take it, cause it really relates to what, you know, the housing committee is doing, and
Sure.
Yeah,
as far as I'm concerned, and yeah, I know I would have even been the alternate, cause I know the last couple of times you were unable to make it, so there wasn't council representation at those meetings.
yeah, I just, again, if people, if Jesse, you're not interested and Councillor Payne, you wanna do this, I'm just trying to get some balance here to make sure that all councils are having an opportunity to be on committees. I realize that you're retired and have probably way more time than many of the others around the table that are balancing their businesses and stuff, but
It's a
It's
mistaken
good to see a
assumption, I
few.
can guarantee.
it's good to see a few other faces show up at other tables as well,
I
so.
can take that one to make it more balanced. I only have 2 right now and I know that one doesn't meet as frequently. The Advisory Planning Commission, and it's non-voting as well. It's more like listening and liaising.
Do you wanna, you attended some at some point.
Some point, yeah, but I'm,
Yeah, but no, do you wanna just talk to what you're doing there? I would say that's what you're doing.
It's very much listening and it's business that will come before council anyways, and so.
Exactly, and then sometimes there's a recommendation from the APC that comes in with a package. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, so you're
Yeah, I'd be
hearing
happy
some
to
of the
do that one,
conversation.
just to spread it out.
Yeah. And so Council Pinero, I just wanna like, we had some discussion about this. Are you,
I'm fine to fill in if I'm needed, and if other people are passionate about it, I'm also fine to let them be passionate about it, I'm good.
and I had asked a question about somebody determining for me whether or not the APC needed an alternate, but I don't think it was in the,
I reviewed the bylaw and it doesn't say one way or the other.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's non-voting. So, okay, so now I'm down to Tate and Payne. Do we have to have a vote on this?
I'm not attached to it.
Well,
I think the other thing that would be interesting to consider when we're looking at this schedule the next time is these have significant different hourly requirements. So the rec commission sounds like it's a pretty heavy requirement. And the not the NADP, the, yeah, it's an ad hoc called what, 3 to 6 times a year. 6 is a lot.
Yeah.
And they seem to be, from looking at the minutes, pretty quick meetings generally. So I think that's one of the things as we go forward, just for new people coming in, to have a better assessment of, like, when you're the RDCK rep, how many hours does that look like? So that that's the balance. It's not how many times your name appears on the bingo card. It's, you know, how much of your life is required to fulfill your duties on
And I
those.
will circulate, we did do a table, when I was a counselor in Mayor Kozak's, not Dooley's. Mayor Kozak's term. We did do that and we did circulate it, and some counselors still didn't fill it in, so it was kind of a difficult thing, but I circulate that again, and I've had it on my desk for a while to think about how do we circulate this to sort of try to put in the hourly thing, but I think that would be a good project as councillors and mayor to fill in and give some thought to, and I think that when we tried to do it as an exercise with Mayor Kozak, it was like take away, and then it was like nothing came in, and then it was an ask again, and then there was a little bit that came in, and it was really hard to sort of flush out that table, but I think that.
And some of them are bylaws, and some of them it'd be good to have a terms of reference, which is like for the farmers advisory, for example, a terms of reference could be helpful just for the next generation
Yeah.
of reps.
So I think that that's an exercise that we can do, we can build that over, the next 14 months of our term, so that there's a package there that's left on a go forward basis for those that come next, so.
Yeah, I just know the housing committee was on 1 hour monthly meeting. When I picked it up, there had been 3 meetings in the previous year, and now we meet 10 months of the year for an hour and a half at the request of the committee, not me. And then because the chair sets the agenda and does a lot of the follow-up, then that's, a slight bit of additional work as well. So that's something that it would be easy for me to put down, but I'm assuming that the possible next chair might go back to just 4 meetings a year. I don't know, so there's some fluidity in that, but it's good to have that understanding of what that is, because I have no idea. You just seem to be hours and hours at the RD.
That public engagement is here in rec, so that rec has taken a while.
The
Well, and then we talk
recreation, this
about
is an
those-
unusual one.
Yeah, those additional public engagements that we go out to and things like that.
I think that when we try to formulate this into a package that we would hand off, say, to the next council, I think it would be the basic work, because at any time, any committee could suddenly have an extraordinary workload, like the consultation with recreation, right?
What's interesting about this concept of bringing this timesheet forward is even just in a 6-month window, preceding a remuneration conversation, it might just be good to it's less commitment to say do it forever, but maybe just let's all try and do it for 6 months. So we can get a snapshot and there can be some more depth to that conversation and something that we can also relate to other people who might be interested in this job. Because I feel like the maintenance of having to keep your calendar and also keep your clock.
Oh, I think you would do it like Councillor Payne just wrapped up there in 3 sentences, the housing thing. Like,
And the-
it's
I go
an
to-
hour and a half, it's every month, and
The other
and
option.
then she happens to currently be the chair, that committee can have a chair that's someone else, but the basic is, currently, it's an hour and a half, some prep time. Most agencies often talk about prep time being half of the time that you spend in the meeting. Just as a raw calculation, and it's monthly, so there's the answer to that question. Now, the fact if she was suddenly building a housing project and it took 20 extra hours a week, that's a one-off.
I don't know, I'll just have AI look at my calendar, it could be a number.
You can do that.
You can just search and add them all.
And build it around. So the grievance committee, moving on to the grievance committee, so we've got Tate now as the APC.
Let that one be eliminated.
Yeah, so we are gonna have a vote to remove the grievance committee because the grievance committee language has been removed from all contracts within the city now. So this committee no longer needs to exist. So it's one of our motions here of the motions in that.
Do you need them, or that's?
Well, it's in the motion, I just wanna finish the thing and then we'll go back and do the resolutions, but it is a resolution to remove the grievance committee. Tri-Cities is, I've been meeting with the mayors. Treaty advisory, we did do a standalone resolution that's Councillor Payne, so if nobody is interested in doing that role, we'll just leave that just the way it is. If somebody is, then we'll have to bring back a resolution for that. We don't have it listed on the resolutions here for this motion.
But they've never met since and to me, this is one of the, we're in Indigenous Persons Month and this is one of the thoughts about, are we updating our requirements under UNDRIP, how does this fit in? Does this fit in some way that we're building better relationships with our Indigenous partners, the Indigenous nations around us? Because if nothing's happening, then there must be some other way that we're enhancing those relationships and moving forward. Other than personally being out and
Yeah, just on that front, so I think we've, under EDMA, is that right? The Emergency Disaster
Management Act.
Act, so we have funding, for to develop that
we direct it to the
consultations
RBC.
with First Nations, so we need to talk about what the role of council is in that, and we have also applied for, I think, 2 grants now, on the administrative side to start, that work there as well, so again, how that fits in, so I think that's where we'll flesh out how, what that looks like.
Yeah, so you can leave my name there, I don't have any objection to that. On the other hand, I think it needs to evolve into something more meaningful.
Yeah, I think this is
I-
just a legacy
I know,
from.
I talked to Wayne Stetsky's on it in
Right.
Cranbrook, so I get it, and they do meet, but they specifically meet with the Yakanukis, so.
Yeah. And I think it depends on how developed that First Nation is in the area that you're at. I mean, the Ktunaxa and the Yakanuki and the Kinbasket have a much more,
Long-standing.
yeah, and it's got more capacity, and so there's more work that's been done there historically, so, yeah. So, but the city itself is, and these are all under sort of regional liaisons. I mean, the city itself is doing work in regards to meeting our requirements of UNDRIP and Truth and Reconciliation, so. West Kootenay Regional Airport Advisory Committee does no longer exist.
I wanna stay on it.
You wanna stay on it? Yeah,
Do they
so
only?
it's also here on the list to remove, cause it no longer exists, so. And then, the last one was, the one optional community committee appointment, and that is regarding the Chamber of Commerce. And at our last round of discussions, we did have some discussion about, Councillor Tate voiced some interest, Councillor Woodward, you're currently on it. Is there any feel on, a change?
Oh, I expressed interest in the chamber recently.
You did,
Well, I think
I
it
made
was,
second.
Oh, like when we were talking.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
it was-
yeah.
Right.
I think it was
Gotcha.
that if I got the RD director role, I wouldn't have time.
I recall
So,
that, yes.
I would love to stay on this, but Councilor Tate, if you wanna do it, I'm not trying to hold back or anything from you, like if,
No, thank you.
Okay.
I'll do the APC, I'm excited about that.
so I'll stay on that.
Ned,
Okay. And Ned.
the
Okay,
coordinating though,
Okay.
or the advisory.
Okay, I think we've got it now. Okay, so now we can go to the staff recommendation. Does anybody else have any questions, concerns, anything? I think we can now go back, so we have a number of recommendations here that council pass, and the first one is that council appoints Councillor Page as the Regional District Director of Central Kootenay, Board of Directors and affiliated appointments on the Recreation Commission, the West Kootenay Boundary Regional Hospital Board, and the Regional Parks Commission.
So that's actually just redundant.
Well, it is kind of redundant, but it's there, because we went through to make sure that we weren't in violation of any of the other, because it would have been funny if we turned out that West Kootenay Transit or something had to belong to the RD, and we've been having Councillor Lockenberg there. I did ask staff to make sure that we have the representation correct.
Okay.
Is there a mover by Councillor Tate? Is there a seconder? Councillor Woodward? All those in favor? And that carries. Recommendation number 2 is that council appoint Councillor Woodward as the Regional Director of Central Kootenay Board Alternate Director. Is there a mover? Councillor Page, seconded by Councillor Tate. All those in favor? And that carries. Item number 3, and this will just get fleshed out because Sonia will have it in there, that council approve any other changes to the committees and commission appointments. There's been just a few there, and so we will get another form back out with the changes. So basically, the only changes are regional parks, with the alternate being Councillor Woodward, Nelson's Farmer Market Advisory, Councillor Payne being the alternate, Advisory Planning Commission, Councillor Tate. And Central Resource Recovery, Woodward is the appointee and Page is the alternate. So those are the only changes. So if everybody's happy with that, if I could have a mover, moved by Councillor Page, seconded by Councillor Pinero, all those in favor, and that carries. Item number 4, that council remove the grievance committee.
Madam Mayor, I'm
Yes.
just wondering with the RD, maybe you wanna do the alternate as a separate resolution?
We did.
Oh, that's,
We
they were
did.
separate resolution, I thought those were all together.
No,
Resolution,
yeah, no, this was the alternate, I did the,
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I meant resort.
the resource recovery as a separate,
Yeah,
okay.
just so it's clean when we send them.
Okay, well, we'll do that, we'll make that number 6 then, so we'll go back to Central Resource Recovery after we do, so council removes the grievance committee, all those in favor? Okay, and then the last one was that the council remove the West Kootenai Regional Airport Advisory Committee, their mover, Councillor Woodward, seconded by Councillor Pinero, all those in favor, and that carries.
And you just gotta change the number, it's 2 4s. 1, 2, 3, 4.
No, I'm gonna do 5 now, I'm gonna go to 5 that,
No, sorry, the council removed the West Kootenai Regional Airport Advisor, that's still 4, like there's 2 4s in this.
oh, sorry, so that's a 5, sorry, okay.
6.
And then 6 is gonna be that council appoint Councillor Woodward to Central Resource Recovery with Councillor Page as the alternate. And then the RD will have them all. And you can go to any meeting you want.
And there's 3 subcommittees that feed in.
Oh, you can go to East, West,
Yeah.
Central,
I'm just, really interested in garbage.
and
Do you wanna debate
okay, so is that,
3
can I have somebody
times?
move that, please? Councillor Tate, seconded by Councillor Page. All those in favor? And that carries, okay. So, there we go.
Okay.
5:54, right on time. And so I just wanna, so if I could have a motion to, I think that's it.
I just wanted to say that the name of the mayor who was a write-in was Brian Barnett from the city of Rochester Hills, whereas the mayor of Columbus, Andrew Ginther, was not the write-in
Okay.
candidate, in case anyone watched the whole YouTube.
Okay. Thank you. If I could have motion to adjourn? Okay, everybody, look at that. Councillor Pinero, seconded by Councillor Lockenberg. All those in favor? Okay, and that carries. And I'm just going to, before you take us off, I'm just gonna read this, and then I'll probably end up reading it again. But our cultural presentation tonight, because it is National Indigenous Month in Canada, is the Wild Rose Dance. And because the weather is good, they did ask if they could do it outside. So I'm just gonna read this now. I will probably read it when we start the meeting again, but just so that people know that we are starting the meeting outside. The National Indigenous People Day takes place on summer solstice, the longest day of the year. For generations, many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis communities have celebrated their cultures, languages, and traditions at this time of the year. The summer solstice holds deep spiritual and cultural significance for many Indigenous peoples, marking a time of renewal, connection, and celebration. In honor of National Indigenous History Month and in anticipation of National Indigenous Peoples Day, the City of Nelson is welcoming the Wild Rose Dancers for a special cultural presentation, and the dancers will be performing 3 dances: Thunder Mountain Singers, Northern Cree, and Young Bear. So we will be outside for the beginning of our Committee of the Whole meeting.
By the cenotaph?
Yeah, just outside the door here, probably. They'll pick the open space. So I just wanted to read that beforehand, just because of the fact that, so we can now break for dinner and 7 o'clock, we will
Sure.
reconvene.